is not sidetracked by the issues of others that are around her. And no longer, it doesn't matter what they say, because she has a focus on Jesus. And sad to say, I wish that I could say that for us, because we're sidetracked by too much. Everything get our attention but Jesus. Her worship is centered in him, and it's obvious she has realized that no person, no place or thing has been responsible for taking her away from her allegiance to honor God. Ain't it amazing that all we got to do is think that something is wrong, to think something has been said, and we forget about who God is in our lives. Come on, help me here. This woman, not even the preacher, nor the people, nor the circumstances, the situations could launch her away from Jesus, but she centers on him. Since the encounter with Jesus, as a matter of fact, her life had been turned over to him. And she done it because of her faith. And allow me here, if you will, to let's just look here in this story, because this woman of faith has caught on to a glimpse of pure faith that makes her want to worship God. Well, what about this woman? Number one, the woman had a simple faith. In other words, she didn't try to be everybody else. She didn't try to be what she was not. She just believed what Jesus said. The problem we have is that we listen to everybody, but we don't listen to Jesus. Come on, wake up with me a moment. Jesus had come to his own people, remember, and his own had demonstrated and looked at him and saw that, well, first of all, we can't receive him. You remember, Jesus had come to his own people and had demonstrated his power through his own identity, through miracles and signs. And yet they said, no, we don't want it. Even those who believed it only because he was giving them something. Ain't it amazing? We still have church people who don't see themselves having to give anything, but they always want something in return. This woman here didn't see a miracle. She didn't see any kind of gift. He just spoke into her spirit, and it was enough for her to realize, if you see my life, then you ought to have my life in your hand. Maybe some of us believe that God can't really see us. Don't you know that he knows everything about you? He knows about the number of hairs you don't have on your head as much as he does the ones you do have. As a matter of fact here, Jesus had been rejected by his own. And one of the reasons he could not be received is also the same reason why many of us cannot obtain a solid, genuine faith in God. We still want to control what we have. If this woman could have helped herself, she would not have been married 5 times. If she could have helped herself, she would not have been the topic of controversy. If you could help yourself, you would not have been in the things you've been in. But the problem is that we allow too much and too many people and their circumstances to drown out the voice and place of God that distorts our perspective of who he is. So much so, and that's why we are, instead of us honoring him with our whole heart, we end up looking everywhere else. Don't you know the church has lost its luster? It has lost its ability to understand why we're here in the first place? Yeah, don't you know that the church is designed for a couple things? It's designed for worship, for teaching, for fellowship. For when I say preaching, teaching, and fellowship, and it's designed for worship. That's the individual has to give worship. Yeah, it's done. You can't know about corporate worship if you don't know about private worship. And there are many of us who think that you're supposed to get everything in your worship at church. But now, if you can't worship God at home, if you can't worship him in the contents of your heart, You just can't do it among people. If that's what the church is to do, why is it that we're looking for something more than the fellowship, than the teaching, and the worship? Because you got to realize there are some of us who say that we ought to be witness. No, the church ain't designed to be a witnessing entity. It is to teach about witness. But it becomes your lot to be a witness. You see, every time the church disperses, you ought to be the one that talk up your church. If your church don't grow, it might mean you ain't witnessing. It might mean you ain't talking. It's easy to put on what the church does, but the question is, what are you doing? Yeah, leaving and going another place won't make it better if you don't have it in your heart to see what Christ has done for you. It is a life of worship that gives us the power and the capacity to shun evil passions of men. Too many people have misdiagnosed why their life seems not to prosper. Yes, sir, don't put it all on the church. Because if you've been taught, maybe you hadn't believed what you say you believe. They put it on the church, on their church, on the people, on the preacher, on the church leaders, on the whisperers, on the hypocrites. But the truth of the matter is, ain't nobody gonna save you but Jesus. You got to put it in your own heart. You got to know what it is. You got to realize if God is not in your heart, if God is not the author of yours, you can't look churchy and expect power from God. You got to have him inside of your heart. You just can't look around. You just can't nod your head. You just can't wave your hand. It's got to be more than your hand. It's got to be in your heart. One's faith will not be allowed to exist trouble-free in this society. You're going to have some trouble if you're saved. You're going to hear some bad stuff if you're saved. The world is after you. Jesus say, in this life, you will have trials and tribulation. But don't lose heart because I've overcome the world. Well, but here's a woman, a child of a hated race called Samaritans. As a matter of fact, she hears the word of God and she believes. There are no miracles. No water is turned into wine. No demons are cast out. No multitudes are fed with a little bread and a few fish. Nobody's walking on the water and no one is raised from the dead. Jesus simply tells her the truth, and she believes it and is saved. Here is a simple faith. Believe the story of Jesus. She does not depend on what the church does, nor does she depend on what people are talking about. But she's concluded that if I am to get what I need, I have to listen to God alone. As he conveys himself to me, as a matter of fact, he is the guest in my life. To worship is a personal experience that cannot and should not be predicated upon the efforts of men. When you get saved, you can't say, Lord, save us, before you say, save me. The church is a collection, true enough, of persons worshiping publicly. And if you join in any other detail other than that, you become a victim of distraction. Oh, yes, sir. You're not here to see who has on what. You're not here to see what will be sung. You're not here to see who looks like what. It's amazing if you leave the church and see everything but God, why did you go? Yeah, regardless, this woman recognized that here I am, I'm at this world, and I've been interrupted by something grand. As a matter of fact, I've seen a man that told me everything I've done. And when I've been putting worship got to be in a special place, I said it had to be in the mountains. And the people that the Jews are saying it's got to be down in the temple. But then again, he tells me that the time is coming, now is, that you got to worship me in spirit and in truth. In other words, it don't make no difference where you are, because you can still worship me once I'm in your heart.